Hola, mis estudiantes. We are going to talk about judgment and decision making in this series of lectures. So, here's a little outline of what we're going to be covering. First thing is language and thought. No, that is not an error. We have to think about thinking. There's that recursion again. Before we can think about decision making, right? Because when you decide stuff, you have to think about it first. We're going to talk about problem solving, and then we will talk about different kinds of decision making. All right, so let's start with this language and thought. So now, define thinking. And like I just said, it's another one of these recursion problems. Remember, we talked about studying the mind involves using the mind. It's the mind studying the mind. So here again, we have to think in order to define thinking. Okay, so our definition of thought can only be limited by thought. Okay, but in general, what we think of as thinking are the mental activities associated with things like remembering, okay, knowing, and communicating. Okay, so remembering, memory, knowing is cognition, and communicating obviously is language. Right? So when we think and we decide, we are usually using a combination of these practices. Okay. Okay, so something cool to think about is this idea of linguistic relativity. Okay? And this really centers around the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, which states that language determines your experience. So think about what that means. You can use Raptor Meme to help you think about what that means in the sense of if a person is deaf, in what language do they think? Now I don't know about you guys, but I'm a person that I think to myself in words. Okay, so like I actually, when I am thinking in my head, I am thinking with words. Okay, now not everybody does this. So you have to wonder, like, do people that are deaf, do they think in sign language? Do they think in the semantics that underlie the sign language motions? How is it that they are doing their thinking? Okay, you can apply this to languages as well. So, I think in English, and if I think in English, I I essentially have to say something like, I am secretly like super duper thrilled because I got a better grade on my exam than my friend, and my friend is always doing stuff better than me, so I'm kind of happy that they didn't do better than me this time. Right? That's a lot of words to have to express that kind of a feeling. But if we were German, I would just say I'm experiencing some Schadenfreude, right? And Schadenfreude is a German word that encompasses this idea of happiness, taking delight in somebody else's failures, which is, it's a terrible feeling to feel that way. I will admit that I have caught myself in moments feeling that way. And then you just correct yourself and move on because it's the best you can do. We're all human, right? Language is the dress of thought, right? If I want to express my thoughts to you, I do it with language more often than not, right? You can do it with other things. You can do it with art. You can do it with music. Music is art. Well, you can do it with all forms of art and creative expression, right? Um, but truly express what one is thinking, you would use language. Like if you really wanted to get into the specifics of what you're thinking right now, you would use language. Okay, that's enough about language and thought. The next video, we're going to talk about problem solving, the strategies that we use to solve problems, the barriers that we often hit when we're trying to solve problems. So I'll see you there.